Welcome to See Effect, Ripples of Impact, a podcast series about people-to-people connection and the inspiring stories between Australia and Southeast Asia engagement. I'm Celine Dang, your host. In this episode, we're going to explore how Australian education thinking is finding its way into Vietnam and what it means for Vietnamese students, families, and the future relationship between Australia and Vietnam. I'm so proud to be joined today by Ha Pham, an Australian alumna, also a Vietnamese educator, and the founder of Sace Vietnam and Hanoi Adelaide School. Thank you so much, Ha, for joining.
Thank you, Celine, for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here today.
So, Chị Ha, many people may already know about you, but for our wider audience, could you share a little bit about yourself, your journey, and what is the moment, what made you to start Hanoi Adelaide School?
Okay, so it's going back quite a long time. So I first, actually, after high school, I went to Russia. My first degrees was actually obtained in Russia before Soviet Union collapsed. So my first degree was in teaching methodologies and linguistics. And then in 2003, I went to Flinders University to start my master's degree in education, leadership and management. So came back beginning of 2005. Wow, long time ago, right?
Yeah, I know.
So before I went to Australia, I already wanted to do something. I wanted to set up my own school. So during my study time there, I already, of course, besides study, I went to schools observing, making plans for my future schools back home. So when I came back, first I actually established a kindergarten, and then we grow into 5 preschools. And then my plan was after 10 years of, I would set up a school. So that's why I actually went back to Australia, brought the Sace, Australian Certificate of Education program here to implement. And then in 2018, we opened Hanoi Adelaide School.
Wow, so almost 10 years back then, right?
Yes.
Wow.
So it's 8 years now.
8 years,
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you study Master of Education, Leadership and Management at Flinders University in South Australia. So during that time, what stayed with you and what made you remember the most? What is your takeaway from the time there?
I remember during one school trip, field trip to one school in Australia, and then I saw when teacher posed a question, and then instead of like student raising their hand to answer their questions immediately, I saw that they would turn to each other and discuss, and I was talking about primary school children. And then after that, one in the group will raise their hand and answer the questions. And back in 2003, 2004, you wouldn't haven't seen anything like that in Vietnam.
Wow,
So that's kind of like eye-opening moment for me. That's they learn that way, and then they discuss with each other. They actually collaborate. And then we're talking about 20th century, right? Not 21st century, when we talk a lot about teamwork and collaboration.
Yeah.
So that's something, that changed my view about education.
Yeah. So now I'm curious about what is taught at Hanoi Adelaide School from your experience. So tell us more about Hanoi Adelaide School.
So we were the first one to actually integrate the Vietnamese curriculum with the South Australian Certificate of Education. We were the first school actually to obtain integrated program approval from the Ministry of Education, Vietnam, for that integrated program. So when I brought back the Sace to Vietnam, I wanted the Vietnamese students to have something that, some international elements to what is already existed in their education programs. I also like observed my children, so I wanted something like that for my children as well, something local, integrated with international elements of So like we say now, like local context and international qualification.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So why is that? I mean, there are quite a lot of international schools, colleges here in Vietnam, and they just teach purely international curriculum. So what make you think a blended method would be the one for Hanoi Adelaide School?
Yeah, so back when I first established my own like preschool or kindergarten, I didn't want to make it into an international preschool because I want to serve Vietnamese children.
Yeah.
And that intention carries into school sector as well. That I want to educate our Vietnamese students with a global mindset. And that's why I chose from the beginning not to make our school into an international school, but rather a Vietnamese school with a global mindset. That's why we use the integrated program. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So it's been 8 years now. I was fortunate to attend the recent graduation ceremony. I feel so proud of a Vietnamese woman who not only have a passion for enhancing Vietnamese education right here in the country, but also have the courage to really turn that into reality for already 8 years, 9 years. Tell us about some of the challenges that you've encountered and how did you overcome that?
So when I started preschool, right, the challenges would be just financial. So I think the challenges would be how to bring values to people, but also make the business sustainable, in some way, profitable, because you need to take care of your employees.
Sustain it.
So I think that that was my first lesson into becoming both educators and entrepreneur at the same time. So how to balance education values with somehow financial values, because sometimes in Vietnam, when you work in education, sometimes people don't see the money things. Maybe they might have some negative feelings about that, but for private education sector, you actually have to kind of make some money in order to sustain the schools. Exactly. So that's the first challenge. So it's not about financial, but also the mindset of pupil about education entity and educators themselves. When we started Hanoi Adelaide School, Australian has become the first choice for Vietnamese students now going to study at universities. But primary, secondary, high school Australian education is not that well known comparing with, for example, UK A levels or IB. So I think at the beginning no one knew what Sace was. So we had to explain what Sace mean, and then we had to explain the whole Australian education system. And even some people in Vietnam, even educated in Australia, they didn't know that Sace is actually a high school qualification. So that's the second challenges that we had. And then, of course, during the whole time implementing the Sace, you can see that different ways of learning from students. So Vietnamese students, if they are very strong, they tend to know knowledge very well. But to be honest, they might lack some of the skills like critical thinking skill, creative thinking. And whereas the Sace, it's very practical. You have to turn your knowledge into something. So they have to develop, of course, critical thinking, creative thinking, other, we say 21st century skills.
Yeah.
And that blending those all together in one way for students to actually know the knowledge and at the same time turn knowledge into something, that's also a challenge.
Another challenge, yeah. I had the opportunity to discuss and also talk to some parents during the graduation ceremony, and from their point of view, I could see that they were very happy with their children after a few years studying at Hanoi Adelaide School, especially in terms of confidence. So their children become much more confident and ready for the world. And I could see that the slogan for this year is proudly Vietnamese, ready for the world. Yeah. How have you seen the student growing so far, and why this slogan?
Yes, so always we want our students to know that they are Vietnamese first and foremost. And of course, they need to be proud that they are Vietnamese. So that's always in the philosophy of the school. Growing, okay. So our students, Vietnamese education landscape. Vietnamese. You have Vietnamese. Has, in Vietnam there are different schools like local government schools, private school with bilingual education, international school with dual qualifications, right? So. And especially in Vietnam, you have lots of high school for gifted.
Yeah.
And my children, they, before I brought back the Sace, they also went to high school for gifted. And so I think at the end of at the graduation, we always know that education is a process, not the end results, right? But sitting at the graduation ceremony, I was thinking for myself, actually, our students actually have come to the same destination that other schools, would want their student to be. Either high school for gifted, international school, they all get into best universities in the world, including Australian universities. They got really good results. They got really good scholarship offers. So that's the results that I'm very proud of. They gone really far. In terms of a person, I'm actually more proud in terms of how they've grown into just beautiful people. Like you say, they know how to manage time now. They know how to think for themselves. They know how to make choices, and they know what they want in life.
Yeah. So they're ready for the world?
Yeah, and that's exactly, yes. So I'm confident that they will study well in the universities with the foundation they have.
Yeah.
And I'm also very confident that they will make really wise choices as adults when they are out there in the world.
That is great to hear. Yeah.
Yes.
Talking about the impact, I think that's a big impact that you created over that many years for Vietnamese students in a small world, but also for Vietnamese education in a bigger picture. From your point of view, how would government from both countries, Vietnamese government and also Australian government, focus more in the future to also bring the relationship into another level, which can help both countries for Vietnamese students, but also for Australian education?
Yeah, first thing, I think the Vietnamese strategic direction for education, the Vietnamese government strategic direction for education is to make education more internationalized in terms of not only school, but also, higher education. So we can see that the government aims at having more high-ranking universities with international programs within Vietnamese universities. So you can see lots of TNE programs, transnational education programs between Vietnamese universities and Australian universities. So going down to school sector you can see that with that trend, schools also want to provide more internationalized education. It doesn't mean that it needs to be purely international, but something like integrated with the local context, with the local content, and with international curricula or elements. So that's and also making English a second language in school. It's also the Vietnamese government initiative to make education more internationalized too. I think to create a better generation of employees, you know, to be in the same level with other countries in the world. So from Australia, I just attended the Australian International Education Conference in Canberra last October. Was that October? Oh, yeah, October. So, you know, lots of discussions were around how to not only bring international students to Australia, but to bring Australia to the world. And that context actually fits with Vietnam very well in this context. But also, like you say, Vietnam is very close to Australia. It's not only geographically, but also in terms of like values in education, in terms of cultures. You know, so I think, and there's also a really good fit between Vietnamese education and Australian education as well. I can see that lots of conditions there for education from school sector to higher education to grow. And I think both governments have the same initiatives in cooperation in education. So I think it's a really good time.
So we hope to see more like schools like this in Vietnam, hopefully in the future, or more support from both governments to build up such kind of project and initiatives.
Yeah, because I think with the last with the trip, Mr. Jason Clare, the Minister for Education of Australia, came to Vietnam in December, beginning of December. He also visited our school.
Oh, yeah.
And so the aim is actually to support Vietnamese government and higher education in creating more cooperation programs, more T&E program, or for Australian universities to have more affiliations in Vietnam, and at the same time for school sector to help Vietnam achieve the ambition to make English our second language in school. And also, of course, the integrated program like this will actually contribute to that as well.
That's great. Yeah, that's great to hear. There's a lot of initiative we already see to tie both countries in terms of education, especially from Australia to Vietnam. What do you think that Vietnam could offer?
Yes, so it's not only South Australia, but last year we also attended a youth forum created by Study Melbourne, from an initiative from Victoria government to create a playground for high school students to get connected to each other and share ideas, especially to talk and discuss about sustainable goals, the UN sustainable goals. So I think Vietnam schools are ready to to become an environment where we could also welcome school students from Australia to come, to be immersed in our environment, to discuss with our students about, sustainable goals and so on. So I think, in terms of like bringing Australia to the world, or to Vietnam in this case, we could, here in Vietnam, we could accept students, school students to come to our schools, not only us, but other schools. I'm sure they will be, happy to receive Australian students, or for exchange university students to come to Vietnamese university, or to have Australian university students to come to teach in our schools, for example, or to work, intern at our companies, different companies here, not only multinational company but also Vietnamese local companies will also welcome such opportunities. I think there are lots of opportunities there.
Yeah, really lovely to hear that. So back a little bit about students, Vietnamese students. Vietnamese parents nowadays would like to send students to start their study overseas from the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, so quite earlier compared to what we've seen in 10 years ago, for example, only send students when they start the university, right? Would English would be something that, general speaking, one of the things that the students should focus on early on. I mean, if they have the idea of later on going abroad.
I think learning English is not as, it's not that difficult like 20 years ago. Because students have all the platforms to learn English.
Yeah.
So they learn English in school, they learn English in extracurricular centers. They have all the access to internet, TV, podcast, YouTube, right?
Yeah.
They have all the conditions to learn English.
Yeah.
That's why I can see that the Vietnamese student level of English is increasingly higher. But I think with English or with any other language, there comes the cognition aspect, there comes cultural aspect, communication aspects that students need to learn.
Yeah.
So in order to speak a language, you need to also think in that language, and you also have to communicate it in culturally, acceptable ways.
Yes.
So I think that it's more difficult than just learn the language itself.
Yeah.
So I think learning English in a formal qualification like the Sace will give them all that. Not only English, but all the abilities to think in the language, all the academic abilities to to learn other content as well.
Yes. So to be like cultural fluency and to start understanding the culture a little bit before really stepping into that world, right? Yeah.
So you can see language is just a tool gradually. So you need to use language to learn something else.
Yeah. That actually leads me to another question on cultural fluency. So people like you had the opportunity to study in Australia, and you also had the opportunity while studying do some work there as well and research there. So you have lived experience in Australia, you have very strong experience in Vietnam as well, you understand Vietnamese student parents. What do you see the contribution of like people like you, alumni, or people have both countries understanding contribute to the relationship between the two countries?
I think people like me would like to bring the best of both in this context, the Vietnamese education system and Australian education system together, so we can create a more suitable product for our own Vietnamese students. So where they could still be Vietnamese, like I say, and they would still have the global mindset, like we say, and to become, it's very cliche, but it's true that to become global citizen.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think that's important.
It's a very small part, but I think there are lots of people like me working in education these days, trying to do that. So we just, little pieces of a puzzle.
Oh, you're so humble, but thanks for sharing. So the last question, If you have any advice for Australian business or Australian educator, entering Vietnam market, what would you say to them?
I think Vietnam has lots to offer, and especially in education, there's lots of things need to be done, you need to improve. So, like with the speed of AI, we can see already some Australian, entities approaching us to offer AI-based education products, something like that. So, in Vietnam, people are also, very open-minded. They like new opportunities.
Yeah.
They are not afraid to try new things, especially in education. So I think, I would seek a really good partnership with a local partner. Look at long-term relationships, because changing people mindset, especially with new products, take lots of time. And working together, because you cannot copy something international into your local context. You need to work and customize the products. You have to work together to find a product that is suitable for certain type of students, in this case Vietnamese students, but also bring them to a higher standard, international quality.
Yeah, that's great advice. So relationship, working together, right? And I think be patient.
Yes.
Thank you, chị Ha, for your time today. It's been great talking to you, and always great to be back here in your office at Hanoi Adelaide School. Thanks for all your information. It's been really pleasure for me.
Thank you, Celine. I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. See you next time.